introduction you've given, and since I can't actually hear you, I am going to assume that it has been light, if nothing. So let me just dive right in. I'll give you a quick background, and then we'll get right into it. So I'm Ian Hall. I'm the managing director of Pixel Tours, and we're an 11-year-old UX design company operating in Toronto, and we primarily focus on fairly complex web and mobile applications. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through our creative process. And before we dive into that, I just want to get a little bit of sense of the room. So let's do a quick show of hands. And Mashita, you're going to have to do some counting for me. So quick question: how many of you have at any point in your scholastic careers had a course in creativity, in innovation, where you've actually had a formal curriculum to learn about creativity? Show of hands. Given your expression, Mashita, I'm guessing the response is going to be something you can put up on one hand. Wow, 2. That's actually higher than I expected. Okay, that's actually not that surprising. It really reflects the common belief that, frankly, creativity isn't something that's taught. It's a binary talent. It's something you either have or you don't have. The reality is, and our experience has borne this out, is creativity is very much a skill that can be taught, and it can be refined through a combination of process and practice. So what I'm going to walk you through today is our process and practice. I'm going to show you how we go about doing creative design. Hopefully give you some ideas that you guys are going to be able to apply to your own work. Okay, so let's dive right in. And just forgive me if my eyes go down here. I'm juggling windows a little bit. We got a bit of a Frankenstein presentation here. All right, so first and foremost, where do we start? This may seem obvious, but we go and we look at the problem. And this means we really set out to understand what success looks like. We want to model what the problem space is, and we want to really get a thorough understanding of all the variables in play. So how do we go about doing that? We are a user-centric design company, so the first place we always start. Oh, sound is cutting out. Check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? Okay. Maybe I was talking too fast for Google Hangouts. I'll All right, well, let's keep going. If I do cut out again, just let me know and I can recap. So, as I was saying, we're user-centric, which means we're going to always go and try and figure out who the players are and what the priorities are. So to really understand this, I'm going to go through an example. And this is going to be purely hypothetical. Let's say that we're being tasked with creating, let's say a responsive website, just by random example. How would we go about tackling that problem? So let's start with a user, and we're gonna pick off a primary user in this case, and this is obviously somebody who's interested in doing some online shopping. How do we go about understanding the problem from their perspective? We use a bunch of different methods. Whatever gets you closest to the client and gets you inside of their head is better. So we'll use ethnographic research, we'll do day in the life, we'll do interviews, we'll sit and literally look over their shoulder and try and get a sense for how they see the world. And our objective here is we want to really grasp what motivates them, what causes them pain, and we want to get this down in writing. And there's a bunch of different methods for doing that, but really what you're doing is you're collecting requirements and you're doing it from the user's perspective. This is often a little tricky for people new to design. They'll often look at secondary sources. Your best source of intelligence on this is to get into the head of the actual end user, and the best way of doing that is to actually sit and talk with people. So what sort of things could you expect to come out of that exercise? They're going to give you, some ideas around what's important to them. I want a site to be inviting and pretty. I want it to be easy to use. I do most of my shopping on the toilet. I need it to work with my phone. Make it mobile friendly. Make sure that it's nice and pithy and quick. So you create this model from that primary user's perspective. So you ask yourself at this point, we've got a pretty good understanding of what makes them tick. We understand what we're trying to achieve. Are we ready to dive into the design phase? The short answer is no, because there's other users, there's other constituents involved. If you're building a website, then there's probably somebody involved who's looking to make some profit off of that website, who's got some other agenda. So let's look at that as another user, and we want to model up, again, what's important to them. So if somebody's commissioning you to do a website, in all likelihood, they probably want people to come to it, and they'd like them to return. They probably like the site to be seen as trustworthy and encourage people to actually put their credit card in and make conversions, make purchases, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got this whole second tier of requirement from that secondary user. So we ask ourselves again, now that we've got this in here, do we have a thorough understanding of the problem? And again, let's speak purely hypothetically here for a moment. Let's say that this particular initiative was going to be subject to a contest. Again, just off the top of my head, does that influence the design at all? Well, it does technically bring in another set of players that you want to understand, because there might be some influence back on your design. So what does this mean? Put yourself in the perspective of a judge who is looking at your design. What drives them? Are they looking for branding, aesthetic, flow? Is something that really stands out and is unique, maybe not ideal from a user functionality perspective, ideal, but from the judge's perspective, it really grabs their attention. Is that maybe more important? You have to be the proxy for all of the players. You ignore this at your own risk, and it can lead to tears. You really do have to thoroughly understand that whole problem space. Okay, so let's proceed from here. We've got a pretty good understanding of what's making everybody tick. We know who the players are, and we know what motivates them. The next thing we do is, this is a term we use at Pixel Tours, we go looking for giant shoulders. And what that basically means is it's time to go do some market research. We want to go and understand what other people in the space have done. And the objective here really is to avoid reinventing the wheel. The software development, interface development, you are constantly building on work that's gone before. And you want to see what the state of the art looks like, and you want to be inspired by it. There's some great ideas out there, and you're looking to tread that fine line between not reinventing the wheel and outright perjury. You definitely want to avoid that, particularly if Mashuda is your prof. So the objective here is learn from what others have done and recognize that other people are going to stand on your shoulders. It is very much a collaborative space. You look at a company like Apple, for example. They have a reputation for launching fully baked products to market, but not too many people know that they've got a massive usability lab there. Their products go through just thousands and thousands of iterations with thousands and thousands of eyes looking at them. They tune the living daylights out of them, so they're looking at lots of feedback and the work of others. In fact, if you look at a lot of the touch interface stuff coming out of Apple, a lot of it was prototyped by Microsoft. Go figure. All right, so you do your research, you understand what other people are doing, you garner your inspiration from it. Now it's time to get some thoughts down. So at Pixel Tours, we try and get our ideas down as early in the process as possible. Often, even when we're in the discovery stage, when we're modeling up the problem, we'll start having some concepts and we'll scribble them down. And this is key. When I say scribble them down, I literally mean scribble them down. We walk around with high-end Android tablets, and we're drawing little jots down all over the place. We're doing some work with Oculus right now, so we're modeling up what some experiences in that world might look like. So one thing I want to point out right here, you notice this is not high art. This is not Da Vinci level stuff. This is stuff anybody could do. Your objective here is to communicate these ideas so you can work with your collaborators, you can validate back with end users in the lightest weight possible. Now, I've shown you some quick sketches here. We also will use techniques. This was actually drawn using Visio. There are 101 different UI prototyping tools out there. We've tried them all. We always gravitate back towards kind of these general use CAD type tools that let you very, very quickly build something like this. So this entire design probably took about one of our designers maybe 10 minutes to whip up, which also means that it could be completely redone in 10 minutes if there's some refinements to the idea. So everything I'm showing you here, these are fairly static assets, but especially in modern design, there's a dynamicism to it. Like a responsive website is actually a pretty good example. When you start talking about Ajax type behaviors in mobile, we usually have like a lot of transition type things. So we'll often use storyboarding techniques as well. So this is kind of the Hollywood-esque way of conveying temporal information. So what happens between point A, point B, point C. This is an incredibly powerful tool, and I'm showing you, this is actually a storyboard for a little help animation that one of our guys did, but we use exactly the same technique for interface design if you've got some complex interaction. We try and do this just to convey the basic flow before actually writing code, which brings us to the next key point, and this is really important, the degree of fidelity. So being smart people and motivated people, you're going to have this tendency to go, I have a great idea, yippee-ki-yay, let's go, I'm going to start writing code and make some cool stuff. The problem is, the further you go towards the right side of this diagram, the harder it is to course correct. The more you commit yourself to a given path, the more you're going to tend to want to stick with it because you've kind of put your heart and soul in. So the trick here is you want to stay as far to the left as you can while still gaining insight, while still being able to kind of validate ideas. So, you know, stay in sketching for as long as you possibly can. When you need to convey that little bit of extra detail, step it up to wireframe. Don't commit to code until you've got a pretty solid direction. And understand the power of momentum. It is very easy to kind of get caught up in that, yeah, but we've written code, it might not be perfect. You're much better off going and getting the validation done as early in the design process as you can. So we've got a good definition of the problem. We've got a whole bunch of ideas down, and we want to go and kind of narrow that list down, and we want to focus our efforts. So how do we go about doing that? Mashida, your video is frozen. Can you still hear me? So I'm not sure what you guys are seeing on your end, but the video has completely frozen on this end. Are you still able to hear me, Mashida? So not sure what you guys are seeing on your end. I'm completely frozen on this end.